1 in 4 Harley-Davidson owners report a major mechanical problem within 4 years of buying the bike. And yet 3 out of 4 of those same owners say they'd buy that exact same Harley again tomorrow. Today we're breaking down 15 Harley myths everyone still believes, and busting the ones that are quietly costing riders real money. Stick around, because number 1 is the myth the entire industry is built on. This breakdown is based on data from Consumer Reports' Motorcycle Reliability Survey, sales and demographic disclosures from Harley-Davidson's own investor reports, registration numbers from the Motorcycle Industry Council, and current resale data pulled from dealer listings and owner forums. Some of these myths make Harley look worse than it is. Some make it look better than it is. Both kinds are expensive if you believe them on faith instead of on numbers. Number 15. Harleys are the most reliable bikes on the road. This is the myth that gets repeated at every bike night in America, and the data says otherwise. Consumer Reports' Motorcycle Reliability Survey found Harley-Davidson owners reported a major problem within 4 years at a rate of roughly 1 in 4 bikes, about 26%. Compare that to Yamaha at 11% and Honda and Suzuki around 12%. And the Harleys never break story starts to look like nostalgia wearing a leather vest. Here's the plain language translation. A failure rate in this kind of survey means a problem serious enough that the owner had to report it, not a blown engine on the side of the highway. Most of it was electrical gremlins, lights, switches, and instrument panels. Still, more than double the failure rate of a Honda is not a rounding error. Break down where those problems actually show up, and the picture gets more specific. The most commonly reported trouble spots across the survey were accessories like lights, switches, and instruments, followed by brakes and the electrical system. That's a very different failure profile than the engine falls apart. It's a bike that starts, runs, and gets you home, but nickel and dimes you on the parts that aren't the motor. What's wild is what happens next in the same survey. Despite the higher problem rate, roughly 3 in 4 Harley owners said they'd buy the same bike again, essentially tied with BMW owners and ahead of Yamaha and Kawasaki owners on that same satisfaction question, even though those brands broke down less. Forums are full of the same sentiment paraphrased a dozen different ways. Riders describe fixing a Harley themselves in a weekend as part of the deal, not a deal breaker. That's not proof the bike is reliable. That's proof the brand has built something reliability numbers don't measure, loyalty that survives the repair bill. Number 14. All Harleys are basically held together with duct tape and prayer. The flip side of the last myth is just as wrong. The unreliable garbage reputation almost entirely traces back to one specific era, the AMF years, roughly 1969 to 1981. When Harley's parent company prioritized production volume over quality control and shipped bikes with real, documented problems. That reputation calcified in pop culture and never fully let go, even though the company that built your neighbor's 2023 Road Glide bears almost no resemblance to the one that built a 1975 Super Glide. Think about the actual timeline here. Harley-Davidson has changed hands, changed engine platforms, and changed manufacturing standards multiple times since 1981, the Evolution engine in the mid-80s, the Twin Cam in the late 90s, the Milwaukee 8 in 2017, and the Revolution Max platform in the newer Pan America and Sportster S. That's 4 major engineering generations between the bike that earned the bad reputation and the bike sitting in a showroom today. Judging a 2026 lowrider by a 1975 Super Glide is like judging a current Honda Civic by a 1975 Civic and calling the reliability identical. The modern Milwaukee 8 and Revolution Max engines are different animals. Better tolerances, better electronics, better quality control on the line. Multiple long-term ownership write-ups now report bikes crossing 100,000 miles with nothing beyond normal maintenance, and some owners specifically note that the expect trouble mindset they inherited from older riders in their family never actually materialized on their own bike. The AMF Ghost is still doing PR damage 50 years after the fact, and that's the myth, not that Harleys never break, but that they're all still built like it's 1974. Number 13. The average Harley rider is a grizzled outlaw in a cut. Google Harley-Davidson rider and you'll get a wall of bearded guys in patched leather. The real number, straight from Harley-Davidson's own financial disclosures, the average buyer financing a bike through Harley-Davidson Financial Services is around 45 years old, with some more recent company reporting pushing that median closer to the mid-50s. Translation: this is a guy with a mortgage and a 401k, not a guy running from one. The company's own data also shows nearly 30% of financed purchases over the past 5 years went to buyers 35 and under, and 75% went to riders 54 or younger. Independent market analysis around the same period puts household income for the core Harley buyer above $90,000 to $100,000 a year, with a large share working professional or managerial jobs. That's not the profile of somebody dodging a warrant. The image of the outlaw biker isn't describing today's typical buyer. It's describing a marketing archetype from 6 decades of movies and merchandise that the brand has never been in a hurry to correct, because it still sells jackets. Even Harley's own CEO has publicly pushed back on the aging outlaw framing directly, pointing to the financing data as proof the company's customer base isn't the caricature people assume when they picture a rider walking into a dealership. Number 12. Everybody wants one. Harley just can't keep up with demand. That was true once. It has not been true for a while. Harley-Davidson's own reporting has shown steep year-over-year sales declines. North American numbers down more than 20% in some recent quarters, with one quarter showing a 60% drop in motorcycle revenue against the prior year. Dealers aren't fighting off buyers anymore. In a lot of markets, they're sitting on inventory and running incentives to move it. The forum sentiment backs this up in real time. Riders describing dealerships negotiating harder than they ever remember. MSRP treated as a starting offer instead of a floor. Compare that to the waitlist culture of the 1980s and early 90s, when getting a new Harley sometimes meant putting your name down and waiting months, and the shift is almost total. From a brand that rationed access to a brand actively discounting to move metal. This isn't a company that can't build bikes fast enough. It's a company trying to figure out why fewer people are lining up to buy the ones it already built. And every dealer incentive, every 0% financing offer, every employee pricing promotion you see this year is really a symptom of that same underlying supply-demand flip. Number 11. Harleys never lose their value. They're an investment. This one used to be closer to true, and that's exactly why it's dangerous now. The classic story, buy a Harley, ride it, sell it for what you paid or more, was real in the scarcity-driven 1980s, and in the low inventory stretch a few years back. It is not the current market. Owner forums are full of people who paid $26,000 for a bike a year ago, getting trade offers in the $10,000 to $12,000 range today. And current listings show real-world resale on mainstream models dropping 30 to 50% within 3 years, faster than buyers expect, driven by high interest rates and a wave of repossessed units hitting the used market. There's a real exception, and it's important. Ultra-limited runs, like the CVO line, built in the low hundreds of units, can actually hold or exceed their original price, because scarcity is real scarcity. One recent CVO Road Glide RR with a production run of only 131 units and an original price around $110,000 has shown up on resale listings near $210,000. That's not a typo, and it's exactly the kind of story that keeps the Harleys are an investment myth alive. Because it's technically true for a tiny sliver of the lineup. But that's not the bike in your dealer's showroom window. For the mainstream Sportster, Street Bob, or Softail, the Harleys Don't Depreciate line is a story from a different decade. Buyers financing a mainstream model at today's interest rates, then trying to sell a year or two in, are consistently finding themselves underwater, owing more than the bike is worth, which is a very different financial position than the brand's own mythology promises. Number 10. You need loud pipes, because loud pipes save lives. It's printed on t-shirts across every dealership in the country, and it doesn't hold up. The actual safety case for straight-piped aftermarket exhaust is thin, Most drivers who don't see a motorcycle in a mirror aren't going to hear it in time to react before the bike is already past them. And a loud pipe pointed backward is loudest for the people behind the rider, not the car about to turn left in front of them. What it does reliably do is get you attention from the wrong people. Many states have specific decibel limits for motorcycle exhaust, and non-compliant pipes are a fix-it ticket or worse in a lot of jurisdictions, on top of making a bike harder to sell to the growing number of riders who just want a quieter commute. There's also a quieter cost that rarely gets talked about: hearing damage to the rider from sustained exposure to their own straight pipes, which is a strange trade for a modification sold on the premise of keeping you safer. Loud might feel like presence. It isn't proven safety, and plenty of riders are starting to treat the slogan the way they'd treat any other piece of merchandise copy: catchy, memorable, and not something you'd actually bet your life on. Number 9. Harleys are too heavy and hard for a new rider to learn on. There's truth buried in this one, which is exactly what makes it a myth worth unpacking instead of just accepting. Yes, a full-dress touring bike pushing 800+ pounds is a genuinely different animal than a 300-pound standard. But a Harley isn't one bike. The current lineup starts with machines like the Nightster and Street Bob that sit closer to 500 pounds wet, well within range of plenty of other beginner-friendly cruisers on the market. The real skill gap isn't the brand badge, it's the specific model and the rider's prep. Slow-speed clutch control, weight management in a parking lot, looking through a turn instead of at it. Those are motorcycle fundamentals, not Harley fundamentals. A brand new rider is going to struggle with an 800-pound touring bike whether the tank badge says Harley Davidson, Honda Goldwing, or Indian Roadmaster, because the physics of a quarter-ton machine at walking speed doesn't care about the logo. Blaming the brand name for a mismatch between rider experience and bike category is how new riders end up buying the wrong bike twice. Trading in a too big Harley for a smaller import, when the actual fix was just buying a smaller Harley in the first place. The lineup has an entry point for a new rider. The myth is that it doesn't. Number 8. Every Harley is a gas-guzzling dinosaur. The mental image is a chrome-covered land yacht, drinking fuel like a truck, and for the big touring bikes, there's some truth to that. A fully loaded Road Glide is not sipping gas. But the broader lineup tells a different story. Cruisers and mid-size Harleys routinely deliver fuel economy in the 40s to low 50s miles per gallon range under normal riding, competitive with plenty of import cruisers in the same displacement class. The confusion comes from generalizing the flagship touring models, the ones in every commercial, the ones with the biggest engines and the most chrome, to the entire brand. A Harley the size of a Honda is going to sip fuel about like a Honda. Displacement and weight drive fuel economy far more than badge does, and once you control for those two things, the brand-specific gap mostly disappears. The gas guzzler reputation is really a biggest models in the lineup reputation wearing the whole brand's name, and it says more about which Harleys get filmed for advertising than which Harleys people actually ride to work. By the way, I've put all of this into a proper handbook: what to pay, what to inspect, which years to walk away from, in your pocket when you're standing in front of a bike. Scan the code on screen. Number 7. Insurance on a Harley always costs more than a normal bike. This one flips depending on what you're actually comparing. Compare a Harley cruiser to an equivalent displacement Japanese cruiser, and insurance costs land in a similar range. Cruisers as a category are cheap to insure because they're not fast off the line and they don't get ridden like sport bikes. Compare that same Harley to a 600cc sport bike from any brand, and the Harley usually wins on premium by a wide margin, because insurers price risk on riding style and claims history as much as horsepower. Where the myth becomes half true is repair cost, not premium. Consumer Reports specifically flagged Harley-Davidson and BMW as having the highest average cost for maintenance and ownership among the brands surveyed, driven by parts pricing and dealer labor rates. Owner Forum threads back this up with specifics: a routine service visit at a Harley dealer running noticeably higher than the same category of work at a metric brand shop. mostly because parts availability runs through a narrower, more brand-specific supply chain. So your monthly premium might be totally normal, sometimes even a pleasant surprise compared to what a rider expects walking in. Your first out-of-warranty repair bill might not be, and that's the number that actually deserves the budgeting attention, not the insurance quote everybody worries about up front. Number 6. Real Harleys are 100% made in America. This is the one loyal owners get the most defensive about, and it deserves a straight answer instead of a dodge. Final assembly for the vast majority of Harley-Davidsons sold in the US does happen at American plants, and that's a real, meaningful fact worth crediting. But like virtually every modern manufacturer, Harley sources individual components, electronics, certain castings, various subassemblies, from a global supply chain, not exclusively from domestic vendors. Made in America and assembled in America from a mix of domestic and international parts are two different claims, and Harley's marketing has always leaned on the first one, while the truth is closer to the second. It doesn't make the bike less American in any meaningful sense that matters for buying it. It just means the "every bolt was forged in Milwaukee" version of the story is more folklore than fact. Number 5. Harley can't build a real sport bike or adventure bike. For decades, this was fair. The lineup was cruisers, touring bikes, and not much else. And Harley leaned into that identity so hard, it became the whole brand story. The Pan America Adventure Touring Bike and the Sportster S with the Revolution Max engine broke that pattern, built specifically to compete outside Harley's traditional lane and specifically aimed at attracting exactly the younger, more performance-curious rider the brand has publicly admitted it needs. The reviews from outside the Harley faithful have been more respectful than dismissive, which matters more here than the opinion of riders who were always going to buy a Harley anyway. Whether these models sell in the volume Harley needs is still an open question, but Harley only knows how to build one kind of bike stopped being accurate the moment the Pan America shipped. Number 4. If it's a Harley, it's guaranteed to leak oil. Every old joke about Harleys marking their territory in the garage has a real engineering root. Early evolution and especially shovelhead-era engines had known gasket and seal weak points that made minor seepage genuinely common, and a badly maintained older bike absolutely still can leak. But treating that as a permanent brand trait ignores 20-plus years of engine redesign. Modern Milwaukee 8 engines use improved gasket materials and tighter tolerances specifically engineered to address this exact reputation. And long-term ownership reports on properly maintained modern Harleys don't feature oil leaks as a headline complaint anymore. Electrical gremlins and accessory issues rank higher, per Consumer Reports' own breakdown of what actually goes wrong. The oil leak joke is a period piece. It's just funnier than the truth, so it survived. Number 3. Harley-Davidson is basically going out of business. Sales are down, dealer inventory is up, stock performance has been rough. None of that is the same claim as going out of business, and conflating them is its own kind of myth. Harley-Davidson is a publicly traded company, still moving real volume, still profitable in its core motorcycle segment, even while its electric livewire division has posted an operating loss projected in the range of $70 to $80 million for the year. What's actually true is narrower and less dramatic than the doom narrative. Harley is a mature, aging demographic brand in a genuine strategic bind, trying to attract younger riders while its most loyal customers are, on average, getting older every year. That's a real problem for a company's next decade, and it shows up in investor commentary describing shrinking dealer traffic and shipment numbers that keep missing internal targets. It is not the same thing as a company on its deathbed, no matter how satisfying that headline is to type. The honest read is that Harley-Davidson looks less like a company about to disappear and more like a company mid-transition, trying to hold on to a customer base that's been loyal for decades while building a bridge to the customer base that's supposed to replace it. Whether that bridge holds is a genuinely open question. It's just not the same question as, will this company still exist in 5 years? Number 2. Harley's electric motorcycle flopped because nobody wants an electric Harley. Livewire has absolutely struggled. That operating loss is real money, and unit sales haven't come close to what the company projected when it spun the division off as its own separate public entity. But Riders Reject Electric isn't quite the whole story the numbers tell. Every electric motorcycle startup and legacy brand EV motorcycle effort has struggled with the exact same wall. High price, limited range compared to a full tank of gas, and a charging infrastructure nowhere near what electric cars enjoy. Livewire's problem is closer to electric motorcycles as a category are still ahead of where the market and the infrastructure are ready to meet them than Harley owners specifically hate electric bikes. Zero Motorcycles, Energica, and other electric-only brands have all faced versions of the same math. A smaller, more skeptical buyer pool than electric cars enjoy, paying a premium for a shorter range, with far fewer places to charge on a long ride than a gas station on every corner. Plenty of Livewire riders in owner communities describe genuine enthusiasm for how the bike rides, praising the instant torque and the low-maintenance drivetrain in the same breath they admit the range anxiety is real. The resistance is showing up in price and range math, not brand loyalty, and treating this as proof that real riders reject electric ignores that gas-powered Harleys are dealing with their own demand problem at the exact same time. Number 1. A Harley is a smart financial decision. Every myth on this list feeds into this final one, because this is the story the entire brand is quietly selling underneath the leather and the chrome, that buying a Harley is not just an emotional purchase, it's a defensible one. Reliability that beats the competition, resale that beats depreciation, insurance that's no big deal. Add it up, and you get a purchase that markets itself as responsible. The real math tells a messier story. You're buying into a bike with roughly double the reported problem rate of the most reliable Japanese brands, from a company whose own data shows the highest average ownership and repair costs in its category, riding a resale curve that's dropped 30 to 50% in 3 years for anything that isn't a 5-figure limited edition CVO. None of that makes a Harley a bad motorcycle. Riders who know exactly what they're buying and love it anyway are not being scammed. They're paying a premium for a specific feeling, and that's a legitimate transaction as long as you go in with your eyes open. What it isn't, for the vast majority of buyers, is a smart financial decision dressed up as a passion purchase. It's a passion purchase, full stop, and the entire mythology around reliability, resale, and investment exists to make that emotional choice feel like a rational one. That mythology isn't unique to Harley either. It's the same trick every aspirational brand plays, from watches to trucks. Harley just plays it better than almost anyone else in the vehicle world, because it's had over 100 years and a genuinely great American story to build the myth on top of. Once you stop needing the purchase to be rational, you can actually just enjoy the bike for what it is, a well-built, occasionally expensive, deeply emotional machine that a huge number of owners would buy again tomorrow, problems and all. Not because the spreadsheet says so, but because the ride does. One more thing, we've put everything we know about buying and keeping these bikes into a handbook. 109 pages, 10 printable garage checklists, and an honest section on riding into your 60s and 70s. There's a link in the description, and with the code RIDERS, you'll get 15% off. If you pick it up, come back and tell us which chapter you used first. If today's video made you rethink what you thought you knew about owning one of these, the next one goes even further. Because the myths about buying a Harley are one thing, but the myths about who actually gets to keep riding one are a different fight entirely. That's exactly what we dig into in Riders Are Refusing to Buy New Harleys, and everyone knows why. If you've ever wondered why so many longtime riders are walking away from new bikes altogether, that video lays out the real reasons, straight from the data and straight from the dealerships. Go watch it next.